How are we, GameLeapers? Coach Eag's back at it, and in this video you will learn why a champion pool is important and essential for climbing and what champions to play. I will be recommending 3 champions for each role based on difficulty and how well they perform in low elo. Specific combos, tips and tricks, game plans, all of these and more will be talked about for each champion, so don't go anywhere. This is the cornerstone of becoming a better player, your champion pool. Remember to help a video out and leave a like, we really appreciate it. Subscribe so you don't miss any of our daily uploads, and check out GameLeap.com, the premier site for League of Legends learning. Videos, courses, guides, hundreds of them made by challenger players and coaches to help you reach your potential. Alright, let's get into it. So what is a champion pool and why does it matter? Well, a champion pool is a nuanced list of champions a player has chosen to play in any given role. The main benefit of keeping a champion pool short and sweet is that you give yourself more time to learn how to play the game rather than how to play a new champion every week. In League of Legends, it's more important to learn how to play your role in the game than it is what champion you pick. So we don't want to waste any time playing a dozen or so champions because we could be spending that time on improving at the game, which is what ultimately determines how far you climb. In order to do so, however, we have to have an understanding of the champions we want to play. You do not have to be faker level at them, just competent enough so you can play them into pretty much anything. How many of you have heard your favorite streamer or pro player say, this game was lost in Champ Select or this game was won in Champ Select? That's because it matters. Why is there such an emphasis on Champ Select in pro play? Because it matters. So what did low elo players do wrong? Well, the number of students I've coached to think that you have to be able to play every champ in your role to be good is just as insane. Playing more champs than you have to is doing yourself a disservice. It takes time to master even just one champion, and the fact of the matter is that most of us don't have as much time as people make a living off of playing League, pro players and streamers. So how do we solve this? If you're playing more than 3 champions in your role, you have lost the plot. Would you rather be great at 3 champions or average at 10? Would you rather be the best in the world at 1 champion or mediocre at 50? It takes at least 100 to 150 games just to become familiar and comfortable with a champion. And this depends on the champion difficulty, of course. Think of your best champion. I'm willing to bet you know most, if not everything about that champion. Runes, builds, combos, playstyles, interactions, tricks, matchups. That does not just happen overnight. Some of us might be able to pump out 100 games in a couple of weeks, but others can't play more than 1 game a day. The truth is that 100 games is a lot of games and a lot of time. This is why I'm going to recommend 3 champions per role so we don't waste any time. Let's start with 3 champions for mid lane. Champion number 1, Lux. Lux works wonders in lower elo. Great range, strong laning phase, and great team fighting. In order to win lane, focus on using your E as often as you can, loosen Singularity, and following it up with an auto attack to proc your passive Illumination. This is a great way to poke down opponents and force them out of lane. To avoid dying to assassins and ganks, the only form of defense you have is your Q, Light Binding. Throwing this out whenever you feel like it in lane leaves you vulnerable, so you only use it against the enemy laner when you know it's just a 1v1 and they pose no threat. Saving your Q for potential ganks from champions like Vi and Xin Zhao is essential. Champion number 2, Galio. Galio is the most reliable and forgiving mid out of the bunch and perfect for low elo. The Colossus is an excellent champion at nullifying assassins and heavy burst damage mids, which is what Lux struggles with. Galio is great at perma-shoving waves because of his passive Colossal Smash and Q Winds of War, and this allows him to have priority for his jungler and the first move most of the time. Galio struggles, however, to deal with champions with high mobility, Corki, Lucian for example. I would recommend banning Lucian because he can bully you 24/7 and your anti-magic bulwark does nothing against attack damage. Champion number 3. I've recommended Fizz because he can hard carry and stomp games once you put the games into him. Fizz's weakness is before level 6. He can get harassed heavily when going for CS, and his cooldowns are long, especially his E, Playful Trickster. So focus on farming as safely as possible and wait for your enemy to misplay, which will happen all too often in lower levels of play. At level 6 your kill threat goes through the roof, especially against the mobile mages, Twisted Fate and Syndra for example. I'd recommend banning Malzahar because the laning phase is very rough and it's extremely difficult to proc his passive shield and one-shot him at the same time. Let's show all you AD carries out there some love and cover the best ADCs for low elo. Champion number 1, Ezreal. Good poke, safe, great team fighting, great scaling. Ezreal is an all-around top pick. He will do extremely well in low elo because popular supports like Blitzcrank and Thresh are terrible into the Prodigal Explorer. His Arcane Shift, his E, counters every hard engage. Your goal in game is to scale and reach 3 items, so do not put pressure on yourself or your support to try win lane in 2 minutes. Save your E for the crowd control and try to land as many mystic shots as possible. This enhances your attack speed via your passive, Rising Spell Force, thus making you stronger in fights. Champion number 2, Jhin. Less forgiving but more powerful in lane, Jhin is the most popular AD carry for a reason. He's a dominant force in lane and excels in teamfights. Using your bouncing grenade, your Q, to go from minion to enemy champion is a great way to harass, and holding onto your 4th shot to pressure the enemy laners can deny them CS, Golden XP. Jhin is very vulnerable if assassins can get onto him, so stay at range but make sure to retaliate. You deal a lot of damage as a virtuoso, so if you are going to go down, and you will, happens to everyone, go down dealing as much damage as possible. Champion number 3, Ashe. Ashe is the least mobile out of the 3, but packs the biggest punch post level 6 and arguably in lane. Boasting the 2nd highest auto attack range in the early game in terms of ADCs, Ashe can dominate most matchups, especially all those Tyler 1 and Double O fanboys who play Draven and Vayne. Using your Q, Ranger's Focus, as an auto attack reset is extremely powerful. So after you auto attack the enemy ADC or support, press Q straight away and you will be able to auto attack them again right away. Ashe's passive Frost Shot also slows enemies when you damage them with auto attacks and abilities, so even just landing one auto attack can lead to another 4 or 5. Ashe can get hard stomped by heavy CC supports like Leona and Blitzcrank however, so pay attention to these threats. I'd recommend running Cleanse for more safety. Let's head to the island that is top lane. Champion number 1, Darius. Darius is one of the strongest picks in low elo because of his power in lane and massive carry potential. His passive is what makes him extremely scary in lane. Every auto attack and ability you use on an enemy champion grants a hemorrhage stack, which stacks up to 5 times. At maximum stacks, you gain bonus attack damage, so extended trades are what you are after when fighting another champion. The longer, the stronger. Darius's Q, Decimate, is also an important part of his kit. Champions hit by the outer radius are dealt more damage, and Darius heals for more. Using his other basic abilities to set up his Q is a great tactic to use in lane. Crippling Strike, his W, slows the enemy champion and allows Darius to land Decimate with greater accuracy. And Darius's E, Apprehend, guarantees Decimate's outer radius to land. Important to remember that without your Apprehend, you are weak and will almost certainly die to gank, so use your Apprehend wisely. Champion number 2, Jhin. Jhin is an all-around weapon. Strong early game, especially if you are running Ignite, good laning phase and setup with your E, Shadow Dash, and a great global ultimate that can impact other lanes. Comboing and timing your abilities is very important on Jhin. The most common combo involves leading with your Taunt, your E, and pressing Q while dashing. This activates your passive Key Barrier and empowers Shen's Twilight Assault, his Q, granting him bonus magic damage and attack speed on his auto attacks. Your ultimate Stand United is one of the best in the game. Protecting one of your teammates during a fight and getting them ahead gives you that late game insurance because as Shen you fall off very hard, believe it or not. Champion number 3, Maokai. The Twisted Treant is one of the most forgiving and reliable top laners in the game. Using your passive in lane sap magic is one of the keys to staying healthy and out-trading opponents because Maokai heals off the auto attack. Maokai's Sapling Toss, his E, is also a very useful ability in lane because the sapling grants vision in brushes and deals twice as much damage to enemy champions when flinged into a brush. So, if you can bait or force the enemy champion into a sapling brush, you maximize your damage. Another great tip for the Kai is using your ultimate properly. Lots of Maokais miss their twisted advance, so it's important to anticipate the enemy champion's movement in lane, when ganking, and in teamfights, because the further the branches advance, the quicker they become, and the longer they root enemy champions, almost up to 3 seconds. Let's head into the jungle and think about 3 champions we could play to rank up. Champion number 1, Hecarim. Hecarim is one of the strongest jungle picks right now and excels in low elo. His quick clear speed and devastating gank potential, because of his devastating charge, makes him a force to be reckoned with. Hecarim's passive, Warpath, is one of the reasons he's so strong. He gains bonus attack speed based off bonus movement speed, so items like Trinity Force and champions who can enhance Hecarim's movement speed like Zillion and Yuumi become very impactful because the utility is translated to damage. Hecarim's most deadly combo involves his E, Devastating Charge, and his R, Onslaught of Shadows. The Devastating Charge grants Hecarim movement speed, and the duration is paused during his ultimate, so using your E to gap close into a guaranteed ultimate is deadly. Remember the dash on your E knocks back enemies, so try to position behind them to force them into your teammates. This is incredibly powerful early in a game. Champion number 2, Graves. Graves is one of the best carry junglers in the game. He can exert massive amounts of pressure early in a game against slow clearing junglers like Echo and Zac, and wins almost every 1v1 because of his ability to stay at range and kite. One of the keys when you are invading as the outlaw or fighting early game is to use your Q, end of the line, against terrain because it detonates almost instantly. This maximizes your damage per second, DPS. It's also important to use your E, quick draw, as a gap closer or kiting tool to either chase enemies running away or to evade, engage and skill shots. His ultimate, collateral damage, is also very powerful in 1v1s because it's very hard to dodge and deals a ton of damage. Using this in coordination with his Q can one-shot enemy champions. Champion number 3, Echo. This champion is slippery, has engage, and can one-shot enemy carries later in a game. Once Echo has cooldown in his kit, he becomes one of the strongest champions in the game, not to mention one of the most annoying. Using your Q time winder just after you press E, phase dive, is one of the quickest and cleanest combos out there because your Q cancels your E animation and you can dash to an enemy champion instantly. This is the second part of your E. Time winder can also be used with Proto Belt, which is your second major item. Simply Q and use your Proto Belt immediately after, and your time winder will start from the new location. Same with the first combo. Play around your cooldowns and use your R as a re-engage or escape tool, and you will start to climb using the boy who shattered time. Last but not least, we have our champion pool for support. Champion number 1, Alistair. Alistair is very easy to play, great at engaging at the start of fights, and can peel his carries with his heavy crowd control. Alistair's main combo is his headbutt pulverize, his WQ. As soon as the headbutt dash starts, you want to press Q. It's incredibly hard to react to and is one of the deadliest level 2 combos in bot lane. You can combo this with flash, of course. Another neat combo that is best used when you are under tower or want to engage in a teamfight is Q flashing into a headbutt, so you knock an enemy back into your tower or team. Simply Q and flash at the same time and reposition behind the enemy champion while they are knocked up and headbutt them back. You can do this in teamfights as well. Champion number 2, Brand. Brand has always been a strong pick in low elo because of his range and damage as a support. AD carries struggle to position correctly and seem to always get hit by the Burning Vengeance's abilities. Try to time your W, Pillar of Flame, when the enemy ADC is walking up to CS. Do this enough times and they will start blaming their support in grief, I guarantee it. In 1022, Brand's conflagration spread range, his E, is doubled if the target was already hit by one of Brand's abilities. This is his passive, Blaze. Even at level 2, you can start to dominate the lane by landing your W and Eing the same target to spread to the other laner. Brand's ultimate also got buffed so that it bounces off of himself, so if you are the one that gets engaged on, pressing R is now more toxic than ever. Champion number 3, Janna. I wanted to include a scaling, shielding, utility-based support because I think they are very strong and worth putting the time into. Janna is easy enough to play, but there are some important tips to be aware of. Never use your Q for the sake of it. Before level 6 you are very vulnerable to all-ins, and one misstep and you can die. Your form of defense is your Howling Gale, so save it for when the enemy's support or jungle tries to initiate. Your E, Eye of the Storm, is an excellent ability and works extremely well with AD carries that stack attack damage like Draven and Jhin because it grants the target bonus attack damage. So when your Draven tries to alpha the enemy bot lane, E him and he will become stronger. When Jhin starts ulting, E him so his rounds deal more damage. Janna is also strong against heavy CC compositions in general and when most of the damage on her team is AD. I hope these suggested champion pools help you out in low elo guys and give you a better idea of how to use your time wisely to improve at League. If you enjoyed the video and learned something from it, leaving a like would be sick, as would subscribing to the channel because you legit do not want to miss any of our must-watch daily uploads. And if you're serious about becoming the best, you have to head over to our website GameLeap.com, the only place for informative League content that will make sure you become the best player you can be. This has been Coach Eags. Until next time, peace.